What is up, YouTube? It's me, Cam, from Jungle House Exotics, and as you can probably tell by the last time I uploaded, I do not post on YouTube that often. So before we get this video started, if you want to see more of me with a more consistent uploading schedule, check out my TikTok here and my Instagram right there. I post all the time on there. I do not have time to make these long-form videos with 175 exotic animals. So the point of today's video is going to be my experience owning my first saltwater fish tank. Before I got the fish in here, I cycled the tank for about a month and a half, but I've had the fish in here for about 2 weeks, and starfish and eels and everything else, and everything has been going great so far. I have some pretty cool stuff in here, such as 2 snowflake moray eels, a dog-faced pufferfish, and a blue triggerfish. We also have 2 different species of starfish, which are some of my favorite animals on the planet. So really, this video is mostly going to be me talking about my experiences of owning a saltwater fish tank compared to taking care of all the other exotic animals that I have. Let's start off with pretty much the only con that I've had so far with keeping a saltwater fish tank, and that is that, believe it or not, fish breathe just as much air as humans do. I know you probably think I'm crazy, but it's really true. So the thing is, every living species takes in air, but in a different way. Fish take it out of the water. So the way that humans breathe air is we breathe in oxygen gas, which is O2. Fish take in direct oxygen through the water, H2O. The O in the H2O water molecules stands for oxygen. So believe it or not, not just saltwater, but freshwater fish breathe oxygen as well. So that's why I have that bubbler going on, which is connected to my filter, which I think is really cool. In my personal opinion, these starfish are some of my favorite animals that I've ever had. They are so cool because I will be staring at them for 5+ minutes straight and they won't move an inch. But then when I look away for 30 seconds, this little guy will be on the complete other side of the enclosure. We have this guy who's pretty tiny. He's about the size of 2 of my fingers. Then we have this bigger starfish who's about the size of the palm of my hand. The starfish's job inside of this enclosure is they pretty much eat up all of the bacteria and poop that the other fish and eels make. And I also made a video on TikTok about this filter and a whole story time about what happened to my original filter. So go watch that on my TikTok if you haven't already. But this filter has actually been a bang for my buck. I paid maybe 25, 30 bucks for this thing. And if you screw this tight, let's do that. If you screw it tight, the bubble will stop coming out and it just works as a normal filter. But if you loosen it, bubbles start coming out, which oxygenates the water. Shout out to little kitty. Another common misconception is that these snowflake moray eels are like the other moray eels that you'll find in the wild, which are electric. These are not electric eels whatsoever, but these are probably prettier, in my opinion they are, but they have some of the craziest colors. Don't worry about the triggerfish right there. We'll kind of wake him up in a second to show you, but this is how they sleep, and it scares me every time that he's dead. So I was never really sure what kind of light I wanted to put on this enclosure, so I really just put a UVB light that I use for my reptiles. Oh, do my hands stink like fish? Shout out Mr. Kitty. But yeah, so I'll show you what I put on there. Right now, I literally just have a normal reptile UVB lamp. The people at the fish store all said that it's okay and it will work. And also, yes, I know that this enclosure is sort of bland. Don't judge me because this is my first ever saltwater enclosure and I've only had 1 freshwater fish enclosure. So it's my second fish tank of all time in my life. My reptile enclosures are filled with life and whatnot, but I'm not sure what to put in the saltwater. I'm definitely going to get some more coral. I might put sand at the bottom. This is actually a real piece of a conch shell that I found on the beach. And leave suggestions in the comments of what else I should put. I'm going to put a background on there so it looks more like ocean themed. And, let me know what other fish or what else I should get in here. Once I figure out all the saltwater enclosure stuff, my plan is to turn this 200-gallon enclosure that was dropped off to me into a giant saltwater fish aquarium. If I can get that to work, I would be able to maybe keep a small species of shark in here, a bunch of different kinds of predatory fish, and it will be so cool. Just in case you guys don't believe me, I can literally stand inside of this enclosure, which I think is pretty crazy because it is giant and I can keep fish in here. Another perk about having a fish tank is that my cats love it. He loves staring at all the fish and whatnot. He loves watching them move around, and I think it's pretty cool as well. You know, if I'm trying to go to bed and I can't, I'll just flick their light on and I'll look at them for a little bit until I'm able to fall asleep. But to compare this to keeping a reptile is insane, because any other reptile that you would keep in this size enclosure is so much easier to take care of than fish. I mean, in my opinion, fish are so much harder to take care of than reptiles, even the little 20-cent goldfish. If you want to keep them alive, it is so much harder than reptiles. I have to test the water salinity and pH almost every day to see that it's okay for these fish to live in. The nitrate and ammonia levels go up all the time, and you have to treat that. The fish are so prone to sicknesses. It is insane. But besides that, once you're able to get used to it and get used to keeping fish in general, they are great just to look at, to have as a centerpiece in your house. I mean, it is so cool. I only keep certain animals in my bedroom and not in the reptile room, and I decided I'm going to keep this fish tank in my bedroom. So right now, the only pufferfish that I have in the enclosure is a dog-faced puffer, which are so cool, but I do probably want to add a pair of porcupine puffers, and then obviously when they get bigger, I'll put them in that giant 200-gallon enclosure in the garage. And up until I kept them as pets, I did not know that starfish move the way that they do. They have these teeny little bristles on the bottom of them, and they use those to kind of just crawl around. And in the center right there, that's their mouth, and also their butt at the exact same time, which I think is kind of freaky. But this is a teeny little starfish. The big one down there, when he's on the wall, it looks so much crazier. So if we're being honest, after I end up setting up that giant enclosure in my garage, I'm probably going to stick with reptiles just because they are so much easier to take care of. And if I had to put like odds onto it, I would say one fish tank is equivalent to taking care of 5 to 10 reptiles in different enclosures. But once again, in my opinion, these fish are so cool. The only thing is you can't take them out, you can't handle them, and you can with reptiles, certain ones. But otherwise, they are both amazing. Exotic animals, I think, are some of the coolest things to ever become on the planet. They are all closely related to dinosaurs and many other cool creatures, although that chickens are actually the #1 closest related ancestor to dinosaurs. And you can call me crazy all you want, but in my opinion, taking care of a 50-gallon saltwater enclosure is harder than taking care of a 50-pound boa constrictor. I know it's a pretty hot take, but fish keeping is so much harder than it looks, so make sure you do all of the proper research before you get yourself a fish tank. And before we end the video here, look at this. I think this is super cool. I got myself a Venus flytrap. I think they are so cool, and I'm not sure, what the deal is with them. You obviously have to keep watering them, and they'll eat flies, and then they pass away, and then more grow. But I think this thing is sick. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Like and subscribe if you guys want me to make more long-form videos like this about my reptiles or anything else. Comment it down below and let me know. See you guys next time. Peace.